did you decide to run or run for re-election?
Sure. So I decided to run because I have worked with elected officials from DC to Austin and throughout the Permian Basin. And what I've seen is that those officials in DC and Austin aren't going to be the ones who fix our problems. That lies here on our shoulders here locally. And county government is set up in a way that can really solve a lot of the problems that we're seeing, specifically in the Permian Basin, specifically more in Ector County. Roadways are a big issue. Our transportation is a huge issue in the oil and gas industry. That's the side of public policy I've been working on for the past 3 years. And through that work over the past 3 years as the Vice President of Motrain Alliance, I've really seen how necessary it is for Ector County to have a strong leader on the infrastructure front. And I've worked with some great county judges in the region, and I thought that we needed a great county judge here in Ector County. And so that really spurred me into thinking along those lines on infrastructure, but also I decided to run because we need somebody who has a history and is willing to work with the other entities within Ector County to bring Ector together and to move us forward. We need to be working with the city of Odessa, not against. We need to be working with the hospital, with Odessa College, with UTPB, and with ECISD. And we need to be working with the business communities as well towards driving us into the future. And I think that's what a county judge in that unique position can really do. And it's what I'm good at. It's what I've done before. I've worked with all of these elected officials. I've worked with these board members. I serve with many of them on nonprofits. I have a really good relationship with these people. And we need to work as a team if we want to succeed. Because no one in Austin cares about us west of I-35. So we need to care about each other. As long as we are fighting against one another, we can't fight for one another.
And this definitely could relate to some of the things that you were saying. Just what are your plans if elected?
Sure. So one of my main plans is to bring all of the entities together, to increase the cooperation. The newly elected county commissioners and the newly elected city council members have yet to hold a joint city council and county commissioners meeting. We need to do that with all of the various taxing entities to work together. As far as specific plans, I have a 3-part platform that are my 3 I's that I call my foundational pillars. They're infrastructure, our institutions, and innovation. And really infrastructure is at the key of what a county judge does and county government does. I've worked on roadways pretty specifically with, like I said, the state and federal governments. So we've got some plans there, including a traffic demand model in order to use empirical data to plan and prioritize projects that will best fit the citizens of our county based on scientific data, rather than being in a reactive pattern of choosing projects just essentially willy-nilly. We need to choose those projects based in a proactive pattern, not reactive. And I think that's a big one. My second eye of institutions, again, is working together with our local institutions. And the third one's innovation. And that really comes down to thinking outside the box, because we live outside the box. We don't live in the Metroplex. We don't live in San Antonio, Austin, or Houston, in these big areas. We live in a very unique place, both geographically and economically and demographically. We need to have solutions that are unique, and we need to be willing to explore. We have one of the most innovative industries in oil and gas. Has probably, it's up in the top 3 as far as the number of patents each year come out of oil and gas. The technology and the advancements are all there. We need to apply those type of mindset and thinking into the way in which we govern and partner with some of these private industries.
What issues would you want to fix or maybe improve if elected? I know you were touching base on some of them, but what would you say?
Yeah. So the first issue, as I mentioned, is the MPO needs to commission this traffic demand model. The Metropolitan Planning Organization is the entity that is created of elected officials from both Midland and Ector counties, the city of Midland, city of Odessa, and there's also a Martin County official and 2 others. And this group was given hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a traffic demand model. That way we choose projects scientifically. Rather than, like I said, in a reactive fashion, we want to be in a proactive fashion. That's one of the first ones. That way we can begin planning projects in short, medium, and long term. Additionally, we need to do a county asset inventory, looking at all the different county buildings and the services that they offer. And we need to look at, are there redundancies? What are the lifespans of these facilities? Are we going to be putting more into maintenance of these facilities, more in the Band-Aids than the sutures? You know what I mean? Are we going to be fixing more of these projects, or do we need to rebuild or consolidate? And consolidating is actually a very good idea. We need to be more efficient in government in any way that we can better serve the taxpayers and save them money and time, because we both know time is money. That is an effective and efficient government. Those are very big deals. Another major issue that I want to do day one that I get in there is make sure that we find a certified VSO, Veteran Services Officer, for the Veteran Services Office that has not been funded in the past 2 budget cycles. This has been a concern that I wasn't aware of prior to this campaign. A bunch of veterans have reached out to me and said that there is no VSO at the county. They have not been funded the past 2 budget cycles. We need to create a budget amendment to get this office up and running. That way veterans, whether they need veterans license plates or they need any other veteran service, they have a certified VSO that they can go to. You know, veterans are the backbone of what makes us American, and for them to have to go to one office, go then to another office, speak with somebody at the county who isn't certified, then have to go call somebody who isn't in Midland or Odessa, the closest one maybe Big Spring or even Lubbock. You know, that's inexcusable for a community that I believe really supports the veterans.
Thank you for that. And then just my next question is, how do you see yourself working with other commissioners in the court?
Sure. So I already have worked with the commissioners. I've presented one of our broadband studies that we did, and I think that is a critical role and something that really is a benefit, is that I have worked with the commissioners. I have a great relationship with all 4. I've worked with them on projects in each of theirs. I've worked with Mike Gardner, Commissioner Gardner on the west side, and Armando on the south side for the broadband study that we looked into those county areas. I've worked with Commissioner Simmons on several different topics. He's been there a long time. He's a very experienced man. And then, of course, Commissioner Stringer is newer, but we've got a good relationship. And I think that each one is going to be able to represent their district or their precinct. That's what they're supposed to do. And I will always value that, because each of those precincts is vastly different than the other. And we need to respect those. And they know specifically from their constituents what they really need.
So my next question here is, what would you say sets you apart?
Sure. So my background in public policy is really what sets me apart. Like I said, I've worked with elected officials from DC to Austin and around the Permian Basin. I've worked in the nuts and bolts. I am used to reading federal legislation. I literally wrote the federal appropriations that we got from Congressman Pfluger's office last year, to the tune of a little over $7 million for projects like the light on West Yukon, South Loop 338 and 385 intersection, and then a project in downtown Odessa. I literally wrote those grants. So I've worked with federal legislation, and we're seeing how critical that is with the ARPA funds that I've been talking about a whole lot, the American Rescue Plan Act. You know, I've dealt in legislation specifically and during my time in Austin when I was working at the Texas State Capitol. You know, I know how to read bills. I know how to interpret these bills and laws and then apply them whenever it comes to our county, and find ways and find grants to bring us more money. When you find grant funding, that lessens the burden on your local taxpayers. And by offering that type of service, by being able to read these bills and to interpret these things, you don't have to hire a third-party firm like what we're seeing now with ARPA. You know, I do that. You know, that is what I offer, and an understanding of interrelationships. And then something else that I really offer is I work as a team. I'm a team player. I played football for 16 seasons, you know, played it throughout college and everything. I've been on a lot of teams, and you don't win as a team unless you function as a team, unless you work together. And we have to do that as a community. We all have to be on the same page, identify a mission, and work towards that mission together to really develop our county, to develop our city, and to work with our healthcare workers, to work with our education folks, to educate our kids, and really just drive our community forward. I think that's what the constituents want.
And this question is pretty much asked to everyone. Anything else you would like to add that hasn't been mentioned? This is open to anything you want to say.
Let me think about it, because sometimes I just say no, but then I think about it later. I'd say, this race really comes down to vision. Having a vision and a plan for Ector County. I talk about planning with roads. We got I-14 passed in federal legislation in the Senate. That's a plan that we won't see I-14 through the 5-state corridor for decades to come. But that's the type of foresight that we need to have. We need to be doing that type of thinking and project planning now. I have had to do that with roadways. We need to do that with the county. We need to have long-term viability mindsets, not just election cycle to election cycle, 2 and 4 year terms of planning. These residents live here for decades at a time. They need to have that type of mindset when it comes to government, not just quick fixes or reactive. My mom always says you don't want to be reactive. You want to respond. You don't want to react, you want to respond. And I think that's a critical thing when it comes to government, is you must be thoughtful and you must plan, you must work with the community. And that's another thing that I would say is, something that I offer is I hosted several town halls throughout my campaign. I plan on hosting town halls at least quarterly in all parts of the county. That's something that is unique to me. I've talked about the accountability side of government is we've lost this bridge between citizens and their governments, and they no longer trust their governments. And we need to bridge that gap and really restore county government to being by, of, and for the people. And I think that's a really critical aspect is we've got to communicate. We saw the lack of communication with COVID. We need communication about what are we going to do with the courthouse? What does the public want to do with the courthouse? What does the public want to do about the library? What does the public want to do about these American Rescue Plan Act funds? Do they think that broadband is a great venture to spend money? Do they think that roads are a great investment? I think everybody agrees they are. But where specifically? The public needs to be involved. It, after all, is public government. It's not some group of elitist individuals making decisions. And I think that's something that I offer uniquely and that I really want to restore to our county government.